Good evening. Welcome to the Selectmen's Meeting for January 22nd, 2019. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Could I get a roll call, please?
Cindy King is present.
Wayne Miller present.
And Sue Licio is present. Join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I'd like to announce that this meeting is being tape recorded. Would anybody else be taping anything? Okay. Chairman's additions or deletions. We have a deletion of executive session listed as 5.1.
Can you do an inventory?
No, I just ran over.
Okay, I got one.
You got one? You're all set?
I got one for him.
And 1.5, public comment period. Nope. Okay.
Does someone?
Should have hand.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
Good evening. I just wanted to, this is for the public to ask.
Yeah.
questions, right? Just wanted to ask about what's going to happen with the Hat-Free Library, because we've heard that, you know, there's $500,000 that's been given to the town, and we were thinking that, and we also heard that somebody wants to do something with the library, the old library, but they want the town to show some intent by putting some money toward it. And could part of that $500,000 be put toward that? It's just a beautiful old building, and it's been, what, almost 10 years it's been vacant?
Jim, maybe we could put that on the next agenda?
Sure.
To just do a report for everybody about that? I mean, we did get some money toward renovations.
Did we actually get the money?
Well,
It's a,
I really don't want to discuss it because,
Yeah, we should.
you know, it wasn't on the agenda, but
Already got
but we'll
switched.
put it on the agenda. Thank you for bringing it up. It's one of those things on the list. Anyone else? No?
We have another hand? We have something
Yes.
to wave here.
I don't know if this is the appropriate place, but I don't see it on the agenda. And I'd just like a clarification on the retainer time that town council has on how that is managed with boards.
Okay, Jim, I think Jim's
let me
going to
take that up
talk.
on my report. I can do
I
it now
didn't
if you
see it
prefer.
on.
Do you want to take it up?
I've got it in my notes.
It's fine, it can wait till the report.
Okay.
So, I just didn't see it on the agenda at all.
Thank you.
Gotcha.
They have to sue.
That was my fault for not putting it as a regular agenda item, but Jim said he'd address it as part of his report. 2.1, review, approve, sign a one-day special license for Paul Martin, VFW Post 6538, 491A Main Street, on February 9th, 2019, in conjunction with a 60th birthday party. Sale hours from 6 to 10 p.m.
I move the board approve and sign a one-day special license for Paul Martin, VFW Post 6538, 491A Main Street on February 9th, 2019, in conjunction with the 60th birthday party with sale hours from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions? I noticed the name has now changed. ABCC must have caught up with it.
No, we've not, to my knowledge, not received it back from the ABCC yet. He's the listed manager locally, but I don't believe we've...
Who's on the permit? On the...
What's being asked for is Mr. Martin. Yeah. I don't believe we've got it. I can check online quickly, though.
I just want to make sure it's in order because it is a change.
I know, what's her name was on it before, but
Yeah,
do we
but
have multiple people
I
on
was-
it? Was Paul on it?
I was under the impression
Because
that...
there's someone else, there's another name that's been put, that
Yeah,
we put forward.
we got his name, but that had to get submitted to the ABCC, and
Right.
until then, my understanding was it was going to be
It would have to be, continue to be Terry?
that was my understanding. I might
I
be,
believe Terry turned her keys in last week, and she's officially no longer on site.
but if ABCC hasn't got
That's what we're checking.
the name,
Well, that would apply to their club license as well. So,
It's not
I'm
bad.
assuming they're serving
It's not
I
bad.
alcohol.
just don't want the
ABCC.
town in the middle of something that isn't proper.
When's our next meeting?
2 weeks.
What day is that?
Is it the 5th?
Before this.
The 5th.
Well, we have 6 license, oh no, not 6, 4 of these.
It's not on the ABCC site. It hasn't been approved yet. The name change.
So we can't approve these?
I'm checking one more thing.
I just assumed when I saw the name that it was changed there.
But wasn't there someone else's name, not Paul Martin, but someone, wasn't there a different name?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, I mean, I could be wrong, I just,
ABCC advised for Mr. Martin to put his name in as he's just on the 1 days, not on the club license, but on the 1 days, as he's commander.
okay, so ADCC said that they could do this.
I mean, this whole thing down there at the ABCC is weird. It's the whole setup, but
So what are they doing with their club license?
it has to stay in Terry's name until it comes back. This hasn't been
Okay,
approved
so
to change.
I'm assuming, oh, yeah, they haven't sent
So
anything.
we
to-
have written authorization to do that?
I'm getting writing back now. Yeah, ABCC advises he's the commander and the responsible party for the 1-day licenses.
Did you get that email, or where'd you get that?
This is coming from Carolyn right now. She
Oh.
said that when he came in, they communicated with the ABCC.
Oh, okay.
Because Terry had pulled herself off.
I would feel
Okay.
so much better having that in
Okay.
writing.
I think that's a good idea. You vote them contingent upon getting satisfactory proof in writing that
From the
It's in order.
ABCC,
Yeah, that's in
please.
order.
Okay.
then we don't have to wait the 2 weeks.
Want to amend your
I amend my
motion?
motion to add that contingency.
Well, we're gonna sign them all, right?
But we'll just hold them in pocket.
To sign and hold contingent upon
Confirmation from the ABCC
in writing,
in writing.
please. Okay, ready to vote on 2.1? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 2.2, review, approve, sign a 1-day special license for Paul Martin, VFW Post 6538, 491A Main Street, on February 23rd, 2019, in conjunction with a fundraiser with sale hours from 6 to 11 p.m.
The board approve and sign a 1-day special license for Paul Martin, VFW Post 6538, 491A Main Street on February 23rd, 2019, in conjunction with the fundraiser, with sale hours from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m., contingent upon written approval from ABCC.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
2.3, review, approve, sign a 1-day special license for Paul Martin, VFW Post 6538, 491A Main Street on April 6, 2019, in conjunction with a wedding reception with sale hours from 12 to 4 p.m.
Will the board approve and sign a 1-day special license for Paul Martin, VFW Post 6538, 491A Main Street on April 6, 2019, in conjunction with a wedding reception with sale hours from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m., contingent upon written approval from ABCC.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. You did second that, right?
Sure.
Review, approve, sign a one-day special license for Paul Martin, VFW, Post 6538, 491A Main Street on June 1st, 2019, in conjunction with a fundraiser with sale hours from 6 to 10 p.m.
Move the board approve and sign a one-day special license for Paul Martin, VFW, Post 6538, 491A Main Street on June 1st, 2019, in conjunction with a fundraiser with sale hours from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., contingent upon written approval from ABCC.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Both pages, Wayne.
Saw that.
Save a trip back, you know? .5, review, approve, and authorize the chair of the board to sign the contract/sales order for the purchase of a Holder Model C270 tractor in the amount of $142,695. Get a motion?
I move the board approve and authorize the chair of the board to sign a contract sales order for the purchase of a Holder Model C270 tractor in the amount of $142,695.
Second for discussion.
Moved and seconded. Discussion.
Was this, did we ever, is this already been to town meeting, or?
Yep, this is been through time. This is the adjustment when the warrant article sought to change the designation of previously authorized funds from the sander to the tractor.
Okay.
And it went through a procurement function, 4 quotes, and working with the IG's office directly, that this is a sole source in Massachusetts for this type of equipment, this brand of equipment, and that we already have the attachments, so everything is in order.
Okay.
No other discussion?
No, I think the summary from Jim Smith was good.
Okay.
To justify.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And there goes all that money with just one little signature, huh? There you go. 2.6, review, approve a request to add a ballot question to the April 22nd, 2019 annual town election for the planning board.
Move the board approve a request to add a ballot question to the April 22nd, 2018 annual town election for the planning board.
Second for discussion.
Discussion.
What is the bylaw going to, what is the question on the ballot going to say?
I
This
think
just
it's-
kind of says we're going to, authorizing them to put a general bylaw on the ballot, but,
Yep, 2.6 in your packet talks about it being a petition
Yeah.
for recreational marijuana, general zoning, election ballot question. This is, as has been discussed over the last several months, the question to the voters for the prohibition or restriction ban on
What-
recreational marijuana.
my question is what words are going to be on, what's the ballot? When I go up to the ballot, what is it going to say? What, is it listed here exactly?
It is
or
not.
is
It
there
is
going
not.
to be
It'll be-
somebody's going to decide what it's going to
It'll be
be?
worked through council to make certain that it passes muster with the CCC.
Yeah, the last
requirements
sentence
are.
on the packet information. The approval of the board, the planning board will work with town council to draft the final ballot question.
I just,
Can we ask him to
I'm
also
just not
put,
comfortable with approving this prior to seeing the bylaw. I mean, I'm all in favor of them talking to a town council because they need to do that, but I don't want to approve the bylaw without seeing it.
It's not a bylaw.
general bylaw on the ballot, currently scheduled. That's what we're approving right now, is a bylaw ballot question, but I don't want to approve a ballot question until I see it.
But it still has to go to town meeting after that, so you have to have a vote before.
I still want to see, I'm not going to approve a ballot question to go on a town election without, if we're required to approve a ballot question, then I want to see the ballot question, and I don't see the ballot question. I just see, okay, can we put a ballot question on? We'll tell you what it is later, but can you approve it right now? I don't think so. I'm not saying I'm going to be completely difficult and say no, but I'm saying no to if there's no ballot question in front of me. If the I'll approve a ballot question when I see the ballot question.
Jim,
Yes.
what's the normal process?
I've never been through this, so I don't know what the normal process is.
Okay.
Legally,
put ballot
only the board has the authority to place a ballot question, either at your own vote or by petition. Even by petition, it still must get your blessing to go on.
Can we put
But
a
when
But we
you,
get to see the ballot question.
excuse me, when we've gotten like petition ones before, have those been able to be edited or suggested edits after that point? Okay. So it probably makes sense to have town council draft that first. Okay? And then bring it back to us.
We debated whether we should come with the question, but we, in the meeting last week, we thought we didn't want to waste town council's time in drafting a question if you guys weren't even going to entertain us putting a question on the ballot. So that was the discussion.
Yeah.
Do we go forward to see if you will entertain the question?
I mean,
and then bring the question?
we'll always entertain the question, but until we meet as a board, we don't know how we're
So
going to
is-
vote on it.
So my impression in talking to town council was that we would petition you to put a question on, and that you, as the selectmen, would work with town council to have the ballot question drafted. But I'd be more than happy to go ahead and have Adam draft something and...
Could I, while we're talking about it, I have a question. Is this, and it's hard because we don't have the wording, okay? Is the intent of this ballot question to give the town the opportunity to formally vote not to have any type of recreational marijuana in town?
We debated that in the meeting,
Okay,
too.
I'll let you speak then, since I was not there.
So, because we did it first, we were going to write the general idea of the question and then refine it, was to restrict retail establishments and delivery services. And then it was brought up that someone on the board believed you had to have 4 questions to ban each type, and to go through that as that there are
In other words, a
guidelines from the
conscious
CCC
decision for each
for
one.
each type of marijuana
Okay.
establishment.
I think it's
you
back to
have.
town council, okay?
So yes, I mean, again, we've never ever petitioned as a board to have something on the ballot, so we may
Yeah.
not have our process, we sort of...
That's fine, that's
Yeah,
fine.
But we will take the action
Yeah.
item to have a town council draft.
But I think your board also needs to have a discussion, and with or without town council, I mean, you could invite him to one of your meetings, too.
He's invited to our
Okay.
next meeting, and we have this already on our agenda.
But your board needs to be clear on what you're asking
Agreed.
as well.
Right.
Agreed.
Okay?
Right.
All right. You have any issues, problems,
No,
questions?
obviously, this is the first time any of us have gone through this.
Exactly.
So I just want to do it right and
Yeah.
have time, so I would like Adam's opinion on the, whether you're able to parcel each of those questions out, because if I remember, it's like the alcohol law we voted in several years ago to have Sunday morning hours. You accepted the law as written by the state, you couldn't edit it. So,
Yeah. And I mean, I'm sure that when you bring it back, whichever way it comes out, we're going to have some healthy discussion.
Yeah.
Okay?
I think it should be heard, at least.
Yes.
Yeah, I have a similar, related question. Have we heard back from AG on the town meeting articles? Do we have any kind of timeline on when?
I
How long
thought
that
that
takes?
Adam had estimated maybe 3 months before we
Yeah,
hear.
it's
Oh, wow.
supposed to be, I believe, 45 days, but it's never held.
That will play a big role in.
So I didn't need to amend my motion.
Anyway.
Take no action.
I think we're going to, yeah, that would be good.
I move that we take no action on my motion.
Okay.
Second, I guess.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Moved and seconded. All those in favor? So let's take no action for now. If it comes back, we'll take it up again. 3.1, discussion regarding Town Properties Committee responsibilities and bylaw. Jim, can you give the gist?
Sure. There was an effort made to clarify this a little bit at the most recent town meeting, so that's taken place.
And that had to do with the terms.
Yes, making certain that there was a clear and overlapping term for people, so people didn't feel that they were sentenced for life and had to stay there, lest they let you down. The general function of the Properties Committee is anytime the town has an interest in either acquiring or giving away interest in real property, the opinion of the Properties Committee is sought. That's the simplest way to say it. What it had become in practice, when I look back at the files and talk to folks, is primarily just a gatekeep on the Chapter 61 properties. So, for
In
instance,
Chapter 61, for the benefit of everybody that
So
doesn't know.
If you own a piece of land and you farm it, or you actively forest it, you harvest timber and you do it with an approved forest plan, you're allowed to petition to get a reduction in your taxes. And in return for that reduction in taxes, the town then secures a right of first refusal. So if you convert the use or if you sell the property, the town has the opportunity to take 120 days to think about whether the town wants to step into that buyer's place and secure the property. So the Properties Committee had taken that role over time as their primary function. I can see the way this is written that there could be other things that, while they might not have always taken place, they could. For instance, you have the old fire station right over here.
Hart Library.
The Hart Library. If there was ever an interest in a disposition of one of those out into the private marketplace through a request for proposals, it would be appropriate under this language that the Properties Committee would review it and chime in before any action was taken to go forward. So I think it's broader than it had been previously used, but in essence it's advisory as kind of the step prior to taking an action on either the acquisition or disposition of real property.
Okay. And it says that, do you have any questions on that?
Not really.
Cindy?
Not at the
I
moment.
have just a couple for clarification, if you'd help. It says property inventory. Something seems to have changed since this was written, too, because the town accountant has an inventory of all of our capital, if you will.
Sure.
Properties and things.
Yeah, the town accountant keeps our list of assets, which is, I mean, perhaps this could be clarified, but the way I've been led to understand this is the big things. So unlike the asset list that the town accountant keeps that may have physical pieces of equipment, this is meant to be the buildings, the real estate, the land
But I think
holdings.
hers has that as
It
well
does.
now. Yeah.
It does, but this is just that subcomponent of the overall list of assets that the town accountant keeps statutorily, just the real property pieces.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if the town accountant starting to do that came in after this was
I
established.
don't believe so. I think that's
No?
been a function of the town
Okay.
accountant historically.
Interesting, because it seems like a duplication of effort, and where's the delineation, and how does this group of volunteers
Well,
get that, you know?
The way I understand it has worked in the past is by going into the assessor's office and asking for a property run list of anything owned by the town.
Okay.
So they'll
All right, so
pull
it's not a
anything
big
from-
deal?
No, anything from vacant parcel.
As long as it
to
matches
a
what the
building.
accountant has.
Yeah, it's good cross-check.
Yeah, exactly. So this almost, it almost works like a standing subcommittee of the board,
Sure.
because we call on them when the subject comes up and ask them to investigate it and get back to us with a report.
Right.
So that we can adhere to that 120 days.
Right, if it's the Chapter 61 stuff, if it's a general disposition of a town piece of property, normally you would have their recommendation, then your action, and ultimately nothing can happen until the town meeting votes, because
Right.
only a vote of town meeting can affect the disposition.
Okay, good. I'm just expecting that there might be some questions. But basically, they don't even have to meet unless we let
there's
them
some-
know there's an issue or there's something to look into. Okay, that's kind of a good volunteer thing to be on. 3.2, review, update, revise outstanding project list. I don't know about you guys, but I don't know if we can tackle this. It's up to you. I really kind of just wanted folks to look at it for now.
Just keep it on everybody's radar.
And keep it on the radar and see if there's anything that you guys can think of that is missing. I know I started making a little list of, oh, wait a minute, this isn't on here, or this, we might need to expand on something because we finished like step 1, but not step 2.
I think the one on here that jumps out to me, and I think I'd like to see on our next agenda, is the cable,
I agree.
because that's been simmering for...
Number 20, cable access.
It might make
Since we got cable.
It might make best sense to have council come to that meeting, just because what will likely happen is I'll say things that I spoke to council about, and you may have follow-up that then I'm left flat-footed. So
Okay.
if she's here in the room, then you have the ability to dive as deep as you need.
Okay. So can we make a note to put that on for next
Do we have a
time?
separate council for that?
No,
Or is this-
it's within me.
Because we had a different one,
Correct.
and moved along, okay.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything. Actually, there's maybe 1 or 2 here that have almost been done but aren't necessarily checked off. So I will take a look at this and see if there's anything else.
I'll do the same.
I'd ask you guys to do the same, okay? Thank
And
you.
I can email the spreadsheet out, and
Yes,
if
so I
there's
can read it.
so if there's anything you want to add to it,
Want to borrow my glasses?
or a comment you want to put in one of the columns, you'll have the ability to manipulate it yourself. The second tab, when Sue and I first talked about this, the second tab was meant to be once things are completed, they'd roll to the kind of the dead tab. So you'd always have a running list of things that have been begun and completed.
Well, it's nice to have a list of accomplishments
Sure.
at the end of a time period, you know? And I mean, it does make you feel good. It makes you feel like, wow, we have gotten some things done, so that's a good thing.
I'll email this out.
Okay.
Thank you. Then I don't have to keep that there. And 3.3, discussion regarding the status of unregistered motor vehicle complaints and correspondence. This is mine. I received correspondence from someone wondering why it seems like it takes so long for us to comply with a bylaw. We have one situation where we got correspondence from residents of a property who are rental residents of that property. And it's that property that's being complained about. Basically, they were, one of the things that they said was, some of the vehicles that we had listed as unregistered were in fact registered. And another one was the difficulty that they were having, almost like they didn't come out and say it, but they were pleading for more time. Unfortunately, when I looked at the bylaw, there doesn't seem to be any kind of relief that's allowed. However, the real problem is that it's the property owner that should be getting the fine.
Getting the notice. which
Well,
really
I
starts
think that they did. And I think what might have happened is the property owner said something to their renters, and then the renters reached out to me,
Right.
lucky me. But
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, there's no relief in this.
When we talked to Adam, you and I, last Wednesday, while it's not a popular thing to know, enforcement is discretionary, he advised.
That's
So-
right, he did.
So you
Yeah.
have an obligation to enforce under the bylaw, but legally you also have the discretion for cause to stay enforcement. Now, the original letter that you voted and sent out had nearly all of these cars as unregistered. What comes back is that 5 of them are in fact registered, and they were able to prove that. They brought in the registrations.
Oh, you did see the registrations? Because I did not.
Yep. There were 2 that, one, the daughter's taking driving lessons, and that's going on the road within the next couple of months, and the other is for sale, and they had somebody that was coming to look at it. The problem was going to be, they had 2 vehicles without titles, a white Porsche and a green Volkswagen, and they were having difficulty finding anybody to take those 2 away without title. They did find somebody, ultimately, that'll take the Porsche, and they're working to see if they'll also take the green Volkswagen, but they don't have an answer on that yet. So when all is said and done, you've got the 2 shells of cars, the Porsche and the Volkswagen, that they've had difficulty, but they have been trying to get rid of. And then the other 2 that are just, one's being sold, and the other is for the daughter when she gets her license in the next couple of months here.
Yeah, and I remember one of the things that they said about the one that they're holding for their daughter might be the one unregistered vehicle that is allowed. I would like to stress, however, that one vehicle that is allowed needs to be 75 feet from a public way and from the neighbor's property. Okay? So if they want to claim that, they've got to put it in the right place.
Yep.
And I think that one was pretty close to the road.
Right.
Okay, so that would need to be resolved. So can we put a letter together about that? It's up to the board, if the board wants to extend them another month to get the rest of this in order.
I mean, I think they did the due diligence in proving the vehicles that they had were indeed registered, and they are actively working to resolve the matter. I think giving them more time is only fair.
Cindy?
I think that we need to address who are we supposed to be dealing with, the owners of the property or the tenants?
Exactly.
So should we
I know
send a
that
primary
the
letter to
tenants,
the owner?
I know that the owners got the letter.
Right.
I know they got
And the way the
letter.
bylaw is written, the owners are the ones that are responsible. It says property owner. Obviously, that flows downhill from the owner's perspective to the tenant, and we're dealing with the tenant specifically because
Exactly.
it's, in fact, their stuff. So any notice that would go out if the board is considering giving, an additional 30 days, we'd send to both the property owner as well as the tenants with an outline of what's expected within the 30 days.
Yeah.
So the 75 feet for the one unregistered until it becomes registered, and then the sale of the gray Stratus and the disposition of the white Porsche and the green Volkswagen. 30 days.
I think that's fair.
It's 30 days, and that's it.
But in the letter, we should be very clear about who gets the fine,
It is the owner.
but in the letter, make
Yeah.
there's the property owners, not the tenant, that's going to get the fine.
Right.
And
And should they decide to register that vehicle for the daughter, to make sure that we get a copy, that the office gets a copy of that registration? If they're not able to comply with the 75-foot thing?
Gotcha. Do that in the form of a motion,
Could
just so
we have a motion?
I move that the board vote to extend the
Time to
Date
find?
for compliance?
date for compliance for 30 days, contingent upon proper placement of the one unregistered vehicle and proof of registration of the vehicle in question.
And removal of the other.
Of the two, yeah.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
I think one point to that kind of thing.
Yes.
I know this was quite a bit of discussion at the town meeting as well, but I want to stress to everybody that this bylaw was originally written and approved at town meeting. Any changes that the citizens want to make to the said bylaw can petition that board to form a committee to address the bylaw, because things change, obviously. People may not have been aware of what we were doing, so.
Right, and this office would be glad to give anybody a copy of the bylaw itself, or explain it, so, yeah, I mean, I think it could be clarified a little bit more at some point, but, and just an FYI to the public, there were 3 altogether that I worked on. One complied completely. The other is just pending completion of the initial time period, so we should be hearing on that. Okay? If you could look into that one,
Gotcha.
see where we're at. 3.4, discussion of future agenda items. It's kind of a little out of order because we're going to be talking about budget stuff and all that afterward, but in a conversation that I had with Jim, we've talked a few times about job descriptions and whether or not anything needed to be updated, and we thought we'll start with the TA job description. So I just want, and I want to make it clear that this is the job description. So, Jim, I gave you a copy of this, if the board wants a copy too. But to have a board discussion to review and or revise and approve the town administrator job description consistent with today's town charter. Okay, so I just don't want that to be confused with any kinds of discussions that are taking place that are, you know, in the charter. That's another story, okay? Charter takes precedence. And number 2, that the board have a discussion and development of a list of specific expectations for the town administrator position. And that comes because I know I have certain expectations. For example, Jim very nicely complied with my request for the report, his report in writing. That's just, you know, it's just making concrete some of what I read in the job description, or just things that I would expect. But I would love it if we had that discussion and said, what is our board's expectation looking at that job description? Okay?
Fair enough.
All right? So we'll talk about that at the next meeting.
And on that point of expectation, it makes it far easier for whoever's in this chair if there are clearly defined expectations that are board adopted. Because, you know, Sue and I have spent some time talking about this, and you can oftentimes find board members that have wildly divergent positions on any given issue. And unless it's been defined how you deal with the expectations of the board in advance, that can get pretty tricky sometimes.
Okay. Also on the next agenda, if we could just get a brief update on where we are with the HR consultant / budget item.
And speak about that after in my report. I'll actually be speaking to that a little.
Oh, okay, I didn't realize that was there. Okay,
I'm meeting today with the superintendent.
okay. Oh, that's hitting a couple nails on the head then. All right, and the other thing that I had was, I saw a policy, actually somebody shared the idea of the policy during a networking at the MMA meeting. And it's a policy that they put in place for a ban on the use of a cell phone by any member of a meeting that's in a quorum, so that there isn't a situation where either a member of that board or committee is not present and someone is maybe texting that person, you know, or simply talking to somebody else, having a discussion with anyone other than the board. I'll see if I can get a copy of it. I'll see if I can get a copy of it, but I thought it might be worthy of a discussion. Anybody else have any future agenda items? Because,
I did the one
I mean, we got a lot of budget stuff coming up that Jim's going to talk about, but,
I gave the one I wanted to talk about, so.
okay. I mean, I want an update on everything, but that's why we're having the discussions that we're having, so. Okay. Anything from you, Cindy? No?
No.
Okay.
You should each have in your packets a copy of the current job description for town administrator.
Yes, thank you.
And the relevant operating procedures that you've got as a board as well, in which there are some definitions and descriptions of roles and responsibilities of both the board and the TA. Bless you.
So the only thing not here is the charter, but
It may actually be.
that's online anyway.
It actually is. It is here. It's the third.
Oh, I see it.
Fourth page.
Yep,
This one?
yep. Mm-hmm, okay. And there may be others coming, but... Jim, Town Administrator, updates and reports.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First thing is the Community Compact application. I reached out and had a conversation with Sean Cronin, who's the gentleman that we were having, but then we had some scheduling issues and weren't able to have out, but we will be rescheduling. He's the secretary under the Department of Local Services that's in charge of a number of things, one of which is the Community Compact. Townsend was the 13th community in the Commonwealth to become Community Compact community. What that means is you enter a partnership with the Commonwealth and you commit to doing certain best practices, and in return they will give you grant funds to implement them. So it's a nice symbiotic relationship. One of the restrictions they have is that you're prohibited from applying in a year when you've received grant funding under that topic the prior year. So for instance, we got IT money last year, so we would be prohibited from applying for IT in this go-round. Perhaps that's been loosened a little bit, because I did reach out to Sean and asked if he could confirm in writing what we're eligible to apply for, and he said we're eligible across the board. So between now and the early summer, we'll need to keep it on the radar screen and determine which of the functions you'd like to go after for the next grant application. So I think you brought up at one of our last meetings some of the topics and the pull-down menus that are underneath them. So if you go on the website, you'll see human resources, but underneath that tab you'll find elder service coordination or human service. It's kind of like what you said, Cindy, about wanting to have a human service coordinator and town-wide, not just an HR person, but somebody that's looking
No,
at the
human service
totality.
director, that's
Right,
completely
right.
different.
Understood.
Apples and
And
oranges.
they actually have that as one of the subtopics here.
Jim, I got that at the conference, and I wanted to give you a copy. You can make copies if you want for...
That's on their website as well.
Yep.
Yeah, it probably, the best practices. Oh, here's the wellness thing that you're going to talk about, too.
So,
So your suggestions are?
I'll keep this on my report, just so it's a tickler for the board. But if you take the opportunity, and if you'd like, I can forward you the link to make it a little easier for you. Take a look down the list of best practices that they've scoped out. And if you don't see something you're interested in, Sean indicates there's no reason to not propose it. And they'll let you know if it's something that they think they can work with before you submit, so you don't waste an application.
Okay, so how does the best practices work?
Well, it depends
See,
on...
that's one of the things that I wanted Sean to be able to answer for us.
It depends on, I mean, best practices is just it's a term to describe doing what is the standard accepted practice for whatever the specific function is you're talking about. By example.
Whose standard?
The states.
Okay.
Yep. So, by example, there had been a number of, a variety of different budget processes used in Townsend over the last 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. What the town applied for through the prior board and received a grant for was to adopt the state's best practices, which is GFOA, the Government Finance Officers Association, best practice for how to do municipal budgeting. So from that was born the revenue expense document that we have now and the budget format that we use. Last year was the first time we rolled it out in total. So now we are a best practice as recognized by the GFOA and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts for budgeting.
Another one then might be what we talked about once before, IT. They suggested, whoever it was that spoke from...
365.
They suggest every town should go with Office 365.
Right, so
Okay.
that's
what
also
they consider
an IT best practice. So the money that we received in our IT grant last year, the numbers that and proposals that came out before you in advance of the last special when we sought the additional funding showed that that is the best practice that's being sought. So it wasn't originally what was being scoped out. You made yourselves known, Bassam made the change, and now Office 365 is going to be the standard across the board for everything. So there are a number of different things. It could be HR things, it could be health insurance, it could be collective bargaining. You know, what's the best practice on costing out collective bargaining language? You know, you might think a comma or a semicolon or a shall versus a may is insignificant, but there's money behind every piece of ink in that contract. So there's a best practice where they'll have a labor specialist come in and do some training on that. So any number of things. So I'll send you the link, and in the next several meetings we should loop back in around it and decide which thing you want to pursue.
Would you send that to the other elected boards as well, please?
Absolutely.
Because we weren't able to have that meeting, and I mean, there's nothing that says they can't reach out on their own too.
Are we going to reschedule that?
That's kind of, we haven't talked about that. Do you want to reschedule it?
Yeah.
Okay. See if you can
Yeah, you can reach
reschedule.
out to Sean.
Okay.
Wonderful. All right. Next, we get into FY20 budget update. And I apologize in advance for the fact that some of this might look like a stream of consciousness, because it was. It was Sue's stream of consciousness.
Yeah.
She said,
And he
these are some
just-
things that I want, and I just cut and pasted it right in.
And I thought you were going to make more sense of it than that,
I
but,
wasn't going to try to crawl in your head.
yeah,
So
okay.
we have here comparable communities for budgetary and wage comparison. The town has since, well, actually, back in the late 80s, the town hired a group called Massachusetts Municipal Resource Association, gentleman named Mark Morse, to come in and do a wage and classification study.
But
And-
this one, I think, is from the HRS era.
and we apparently ran under that MMA wage and class plan all the way until the early 2010-11 timeframe, at which point the town went out to bid and hired HRS, Human Resource Services, and they came in and revised the comp and class plan. So basically, in simple terms, they look at communities that are deemed comparable to the town of Townsend based on indices like ability to pay indices
Well, we've
like...
got one in here, a copy of it in the
Sure,
packet.
so, yeah,
so-
equalized value, property value per capita, income per capita, operating budget, average tax bill. Those types of issues are looked at to determine comparability. Obviously, population is a big one. So HRS had come up back in 2012 with Ashburnham, Ashby, Athol, Groton, Lancaster, Leicester, Littleton, Lunenburg, Pepperell, Rutland, Shirley, Sterling, Templeton, Westminster, and West Boylston as comparables. And whether those are still comparable today, it was updated in 15, and it looks like November of 15, and the comps weren't changed. They held true. But we're three plus years out, and we don't know if these are still valid comps. So I think the discussion that Sue, you and I were having is how do we determine whether these are, and if not, which ones slide into the list?
Well, the nice thing is that DOR has this information. DLS has the information online, so it's pretty easy to pull it. I would want to look at it in terms of median rather than average, because that gives you a range. It doesn't always make sense when you just look at the numbers. But yeah, I think it's a good exercise to go in and say, who are we most like? And there's even more criteria than these on DLS as well. I think Carolyn's played with that before. She might be able to pull some different numbers if you would want her to. But.
Yeah, no, I think the data's out there. I don't think we need to spend money to have a consultant come in and do that which is readily available to us. So.
And if you can provide it in Excel, I know I'd like to look at it.
Yeah.
So. Okay.
I don't know if I got this my own email or if it was to my selectmen's email, if we all got it. But did everybody get an email from Pioneer?
I've not seen it.
Okay.
So you must have
I must be on there. I'm on.
Yeah, they have a really nice.
They've got
database.
which they just and they if you had hit
They
their
were
booth,
there.
if you hit their booth,
Yeah,
you could
they
have talked.
were.
They
Yeah.
did have some information about it, but like a week ago or a week prior to the convention, I received an email. And I was talking to them. I was saying, thank you, you saved us so much work. But they have a mass analysis of, I think that's what they're calling it, but it's got everything you can imagine, everything you would ever want to know is available.
I think I talked to them for a while.
I mean, and trying to put it into Excel would be like, okay, add 1 million hours to your day to get that done. But it's got all the cities and towns in Massachusetts, and you can sort it on their site. And this is information that often these open.gov type organizations are charging for. This is free. And I said, are you planning on? I asked at the meeting, are you planning on charging for this? Is this just a tease to get us all after this? And they said, no, we don't have any plans on charging for this. But it's got all these comparisons that you could, from school enrollments to projected aging.
Do you want to share that?
Yeah.
If you find,
Absolutely.
find it and share it, or maybe you can forward the email. I don't think I picked up anything from them.
Yeah, I thought I
but
got
I'll
it on
have
my
to
selectmen,
look.
but you guys are, it's like maybe.
I don't have it. So it's got to be something you got.
Yeah, or I'm at least enrolled on one of my emails, but I'll forward it. I'll get it.
I didn't
over
pick
to you.
up anything from their booth.
Yeah,
I
it's
picked up a
definitely-
lot of things, but I don't
Yeah,
think
the
I have.
handout
theirs.
does not do justice for the ability to go online and just whatever information you're looking for, and doing whatever comparisons you think might be
That might be a
interesting.
helpful
So it's
place
just
to look
downright interesting.
into. Nice.
Okay.
Let's see what you want.
Okay, so what else we got on our list?
Okay, so that's one. We then get to the Budget Summit meeting, date, attendees, posting. So some of this is horse after cart, cart after horse, horses left the barn, one of those.
The cow has left the barn?
The gorilla in the corner.
Yeah,
Oh, my God.
with the elephant.
The policy contemplates having the budget summit in the end of November.
Yeah.
We were without our treasurer collector. We were limping along downstairs, so one of my reports, I think the first week of December, was that, we weren't really in a position to hold that formal of a summit, but we did have the data that we were updating. So the next phase was updating on the staff level the revenue expense forecast sheets.
Okay, the thing that I think, the summit, when I read that in the policy, sounded more like a town-wide, all boards discussion.
It was
Where are you
actually
guys going?
Selectmen, school committee, and
Right.
finance committee.
Right.
So it was all of the, kind of the big drivers. And we didn't have the ability to pull data together without the treasurer collector. At that point, it had been a couple of months that they were still playing catch-up downstairs, which I'm happy to say now the position, as of last meeting, is filled. And she's doing swimmingly downstairs. So.
Nice.
I did have this perhaps is a good segue, I did have the first budget discussion with the school department, school district just today. The superintendent had the 3 administrators from the district towns come in for a peek at what they're looking at for their budget rollout next Monday night. I don't think it is a surprise that there'll be an increase that's being projected. I don't have any level of detail that I could share, and if I did, it wouldn't be particularly good form for me to share it before he's had a chance to share it with the school committee on Monday night. But they're having some difficulty. They've used excess and deficiency now for a number of years running. That's their equivalent of free cash. To close the budget gap, they ended up last year going back in and putting more E&D toward balancing the budget after the budget had been certified, because Pepperell particularly was having difficulty with the assessment. So,
Did they, have they completed any of the contracts, the big contracts?
all the contracts have been completed, is my understanding. There had been, I think the nurses were still outstanding when I last spoke with Nancy about a month ago, but they roll in. They were waiting until the teachers was done.
And teachers is done?
Teachers is done, yeah. The kind of the very soft picture was 2.5% increase on total budget based on contracts, so employment contracts and health insurance. Those 2 drivers alone, we're going to hit the budget by 2.5%. So
Okay.
it's not
I mean,
going to be an easy number to look at next Monday night, but I think we've been through this enough times to know that they can certify high and come down. Mm-hmm. So if for your benefit, Wayne, not having probably gone through this yet with them, if they set a budget and they vote to adopt the budget at X dollars, they can always at a subsequent meeting come down off of that number.
They can't go up.
But they can't go up.
Okay.
So the sticker shock to a certain degree, it's like the MSRP sticker on the side window of the car you're looking at.
Don't pay any attention
It's
to that.
not necessarily the real number at the end of the day, but it's where they're going to
No,
start.
it's kind of like looking at the governor's budget and thinking that's it, too. It isn't.
Yeah. One of the other big drivers for the school is transportation, obviously. One thing that Governor Baker did announce this weekend at the MMA was that his House 1 budget, once it rolls out, he's indicated that there will be additional funding for regional transportation, regional school transportation. So that might offer a little bit of relief. So again, this time of year, so many pieces are still in play that it's difficult for them. It's difficult for us, and we have far less moving parts than they do. They've got circuit breaker funding for special education costs. They've got, their federal title grants. They've got so many things that are still at play that it's difficult. But he recognizes we need to start it out.
They're all trying to do some different things. MMA is lobbying. That was one of the big questions.
Back to this, are we going to have this budget summit?
Well,
One thought I had on that, Madam Chair, is we've traditionally, apparently, and I know that in the 3 that I've been a party to, there's been an all towns, I should say, Select Board Finance Committee meeting with the school committee on budget. And that is, I think, probably a decent substitution this year for that type of a global discussion about what their expectation is in terms of their budgetary needs, what their
Is
revenue
that
looks like.
number 14 here?
It does, yeah. 14 is that issue, but what I'm saying is that could take the place this year of the summit that would have taken place with far more nebulous information back in November.
Okay, and when do we get a look at, or get a chance to discuss with other elected boards what their goals and stuff are, you know? That's,
We'll keep going down the list of your thoughts
okay,
here.
okay.
So
So
3
I'm going to say budget summit, we're going to try to roll that in.
into 14.
Okay,
Okay. Scheduled Selectmen's review of department budgets, that's begun. You should have in your packets what we've got scheduled to date, so that's still being worked on, but these would be a department head, a board or commission coming in and saying, you know, this is what we have projected as our needs based on these policies, either policies that are internal to them or external to them that come from you, but that touch them. So those are being scheduled, and we'll be seeing those within the next couple of weeks.
and these are regularly scheduled
Correct.
meetings?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep, we'll put a chunk of time aside, 15-minute clips probably, unless it's one of the three bigs, police, fire, or highway.
okay.
And discussion with other
Okay, so
boards.
this isn't the whole list yet?
No, that's
Okay.
just what, as of last Friday, when we put the packet out, what had been confirmed.
Okay.
And your note about scheduling discussion with other boards regarding budgets, that would roll into the same sheet that we just talked about. So if, for instance, the budget is the planning board, you wouldn't just have Beth come in, you'd have the board either in total as posted or with a sub-quorum representation sitting and saying, this is what our budget proposal is for next year and this is why. You generally don't see, at least when I look back as far as I can see online on the server, you don't see a lot of play with budgets like the planning board or the ZBA. Concom has a little bit more play to it from a personnel perspective over the years. But there's never been, at least for coming on 20 years, anything significant that I can see that's happened with those budgets.
Yeah, I think it's here somewhere, too. See if I did write it down.
The assistants.
Training, 10. I was thinking of it more in terms of thinking outside of the box and outside of what we've maybe done for the last 20 years.
Right.
And bringing up things that maybe they want to talk about as boards, too, you know, because it's kind of like, to me, I look at it as you do like a zero-based budget based on need, and then you have to bring that down to reality at some point. But I think too often we end up missing things that should be talked about, and if there's a big enough need, we'll try to find out how we can fill it, and maybe we can do something through the state.
Right.
Or through MMA, or
And some of it is relatively small potatoes. A great example that we've encountered this year is the discussions we've had with the Housing Authority. You know, do you have a need for staff? You know, articulate what that need is, and then we can roll it into the budget. So I think one of your other points down here is working with, it's actually next, number 5, making assistance available to other elected boards. So
Exactly.
making certain that, you know, we're not presuming that, you know, the $500 that was sought since 1972 is all that's being sought again, and just rolling that column. But actually
Exactly.
engaging and having a discussion about what are the needs for admin support.
so it's like, how do we do that? You know, I mean, what's the forum? And that's why I keep going back to like an all boards kind of presentation, if you will.
Sure. What I was going to suggest, and I wouldn't have made the outreach without having first spoken to you, but I can reach out to all the elected boards, and just as I have each department come sit down and we talk about things. Do the same with a representative from each elected board, and show them where we have perhaps, support available in another location that we can carve X number of hours out of that budget and place it over here. Or if it means needing new hours, place it, but actually work with them in constructing the budget instead of just looking at what's been rolled forever.
Right, so that's the assistance
Right,
part
and
of
it
it.
can ultimately come, full circle as a presentation before the board.
I don't know how you guys feel about it, but there's a part of me that really feels like we as a board we should be, in my opinion, as proactive in leading that effort as we can. I mean, understanding that, you know what, I'm sorry, Jim, but you're the one that's going to be working with them to get the details. But to make sure that we issue a statement of some sort that says, hey, we care about, what kinds of training might you need?
Right.
What staff, what are the things that are missing?
Right.
And try to help find solutions. Not that we're over another elected board, but, we're all partners in where we want the community to move to, so.
And the budget per charter is your document. So while there are subcomponents to it, that some are departments directly beneath you, others are equally elected boards, but it still is your document by charter. So it's appropriate for you to take that lead.
I guess I'm almost thinking we should have some kind of a kickoff, but it's, like you said.
Well, just an introduction of what we're asking for and what's available to them, because
Yeah.
I've been at several different board meetings that, the question came up, well, how do we get money to fund
Right.
the master plan is the thing, is how do we...
I mean,
come
can
up
we
with
just
that?
have like a drop-in kind of thing on a Saturday morning for, a couple hours, and just even an hour?
Right.
I just think it's important to set the stage and set the tone, and then figure out, all right, so what are the things that we're going to have in place? Or even a buddy system kind of thing, somebody who's done it before that's willing to help another board out.
Right. We're not dealing with an awful lot of
It's
boards.
not, no, it's not.
It's a...
3, 4.
Yeah, I mean, because Board of Health is big, given their responsibility. They've had a large budget. They have the Neshoba piece, they have the trash collection piece, then they have their in-house admin piece. So while they're elected, they're pretty tight. They know what they are, what they need. They still can articulate that to you and what their wishes are. But that one's, I think they're in decent shape.
But
you do have housing
then
authority.
at the MMA, all we heard was issues with recycling.
Sure.
And
problem.
big issues with costs
Yeah.
of recycling.
And,
And what are we going to do about it, to the point that that's one of the 2 questions that the MMA is going to be lobbying on. So,
And Carla, I did speak with Carla after your email, and she said that they've been working on that issue as a Board of Health, and that she was going to reach out to her board members and see if they would be interested in coming as invitees to your next or one after meeting.
Yeah.
So that can be a very publicly,
Yeah.
vetted
I think
piece of
that's
information.
important. So we're all on the same page, and the community's on the same page, too.
And I think doing it, the Board of Selectmen, more people are seeing what we're doing,
Sure.
and that having a public education session, so to speak, on recycling at our meeting
Yeah.
is much more effective than
Yeah.
the Board of Health meeting. Who goes to the Board of Health meeting unless they're somebody's talking about their septic system or something?
Exactly, yeah.
But nobody else knows what's going on. And I know that there's a lot of myths and misinformation about recycling and that.
I mean, we could just, we're going to talk a little bit more about what do we need for work sessions or something in between, because anytime we start talking about budget,
Yeah,
you're talking time,
Yeah, but I think one thing that I think would be helpful, I know, every board's going to respond to some of this based on how much time they, as individuals, want to put in to their boards, and how much effort and how much time they need, so sometimes they don't want a lot of money for what I'm about to say, but I think a lot of boards, there's a lot of training opportunities out there. A lot of them either aren't taking the opportunity, like even the MMA, that is not a selectmen's conference. Selectmen go, and there should be FinCom members there, and I had made sure that our FinCom budget had enough to send at least one person to that conference every year, and I was the only one interested at the time. I guess I haven't seen anyone else go. But there's other, like, recycling was a big thing, IT was a big thing. I can't think of some of the other conferences, but there's a lot of workshops that really impact other boards, and so
I sent a note to housing.
But each board, and we as a selectman, we can't figure out what conferences that are out there, or trainings, or even the Bay State Roads thing. Sometimes there's Bay State Roads training that isn't just highway, it's other things that other departments might, hey, they're having something somewhere, I couldn't go, but they're having something on open meeting law. Okay, we want to send somebody, it costs $25. Okay, but each board has their area, like conservation has areas where there's trainings in their state counterpart will have a training, and DOS always has trainings on finance things, and you don't have to be a selectman or on the FinCom to go to some of those. You can be on other boards, and but letting the elected boards know how to look at those lists, because they know, we don't know, we can't guess for them, to say, hey, take a look at the next couple of years, or what meetings do you want to send somebody to, even if it's a free meeting and you want to put $50 for parking, tolls, and the mileage reimbursement onto your budget, to say we're going to send a couple people, and we need to have money to just pay them for their miscellaneous expenses.
There's nothing that should stop us from actually having a web page link to the Mass Selectmen's Association group for their trainings, Conservation group for their trainings. So instead of having somebody have to go out and search as a volunteer and track things down, we have it more readily available through our own website.
Or, like, I spent a good part of the last couple days just pulling down all of the attachments from the workshops, and I have them in a folder to send to you.
Right.
You could just take that whole thing and put it out there.
Distribute those to each of the appropriate boards, and a lot of them overlap. Like, well, cybersecurity is the other big thing. I think it's a new best practice
too.
It's real. I went to those, and it's really awful, and we do need to do something. I mean, a number of times we had heard that Leominster had paid a ransom for their
domain.
It was a pretty huge sum that they had to pay in order to save.
City of Gardner Police Department domain expired at midnight on one morning, and at 12:01 it got snatched up, and they had to pay for it, and it was being redirected to a pornographic website. So they had an impetus to pay quick.
Oh, God.
We had the same. Ours expired.
Really?
That happened here. I thought since you were here, maybe right before. The police departments had lapsed. They were able to get it back. It just, nobody was trying to steal it, but they had to get it back.
Okay,
But the
what's
cyber
next?
thing, I forgot what I was going to that, but all right.
Gotcha.
But if we can all just be thinking about that, and as we're having discussions, kind of move it and invite folks in, that is all I'm really thinking there, so.
Excellent. Let's see, 7, 8, 8 we've already hit. 7, I have some things in my written report, I'll touch on that one. 9, I have in my written report, so I'll touch on that. 10, I have in my written report, so we can touch on that. And 11, 12, and 13, actually, in my written report as well, so we can transition to my written report if you don't mind.
Please. And don't forget the one that you wrote down for...
Absolutely. Why don't we do that one first so we don't forget before. I forget. So access to council. The select board are the town legally, so you appoint council. Nobody can access council under the law on behalf of the town or any of its subcomponents, but through you. So you've voted a policy. This isn't new to you as this board. It's been in existence for decades. Most recently, it was revised for you specifically as a board, but what wasn't changed is access for other boards and committees.
Right.
And perhaps it should be what we're learning now, because it has always, as far back as I can see in the file, said if a member of a multi-member board wishes to access council, they can do so, but only with a vote of their board. So you don't have...
And that was because of the cost.
Right. So under the new model that you've engaged me, Tallerman, and Costa in, where there's a set fee per month for general legal, that control isn't as prevalent. Adam, I think, was very good on Wednesday in saying, however, we monitor our costs as though we're billing, and when we come to renewal, we're going to look back and say, how do we do? So, they would encourage some restraint, so we don't price ourselves out next time we go to bid.
But office hours aren't taken into account in that policy either. So I think there's two things in the policy. One is the office hours and how you would sign up and who can sign up and what's the criteria. Do you have to have talked with your board and gotten appointed, if you will, to speak for your board? And the other one to be specific about general counsel.
Right.
Okay? That it should default for labor or any other...
litigation. Back through the hard check.
Through the hard check. Okay? So I wondered if you could maybe work on wordsmithing that a little bit.
That won't be difficult at all. I think it's important as well to recount what Adam said, that he has some communities that still use a hard check for board members. He has some communities where there is, on office hours, there's no gate at all, and it's as simple as whoever signs up can come. He said some of the difficulty in that, and you just have to have your eyes open to it, is you could have any number of members of a board come and talk to him on the same issue and hear something different. So he needs to be very
because
clear.
they're asking it differently.
Right. So he said from his perspective it becomes a little difficult because he needs to make certain that he's giving a clear and consistent message with each person. And if they ask the question a little bit differently, he's going to do his best to try to keep things as uniform as possible, because you could end up with a meeting where 2 or 3 people say, talk to council, and they
So in situations like that, I mean, I think that's an important thing to talk about, because in a situation where, let's say there's a 7-member board, and and they're pretty much split on what their interpretation of something is, and they want to hear from council. If they were going to go in these 2 groups, or a representative from these 2 groups, it's hard not to. It's hard to bring it back in a fully objective way sometimes too, and if you're not asking the questions the same way the other group's asking the questions, you might get a different answer too.
Right. And, Adam did address that too. So he said, you probably remember, he said if he gets multiple members from the same board or commission coming on an issue, he'll take the extra effort of writing the opinion and sending it to all board members. So then if member A looks at it and says, well, that's really not what I meant to ask, it's at least clear that this was what I was responding to. It might not have been what you thought you were asking, but this is what I was responding to. So he recounts the question, and here's the answer. So everybody's on the same...
But in a situation like that, I think any board could look at it and say, hey, you know what? It's obvious that we're all not in agreement as to either the result or the, the discussion, our opinions. Let's see if we can set up a conference call with Adam have him join,
sense, yeah.
join the discussion. So I think to put something like that into the policy might work as well. Because then it's, everybody hears the same thing at the same time,
Gotcha.
okay?
I mean, and I think this is a great example of if the policy we've got no longer works, let's
Then you
change it.
fix it.
Right.
That's
I
what,
mean, you know, sometimes, you know, I know, specifically, I know that Veronica had some feelings about wanting to get in with council the other day, but the policy said what the policy said on that given day.
I know.
So,
We need to change it.
So
Ronnie?
in the meantime, I mean, we would have taken a board vote if we thought we needed one. But my understanding was that for retainer time, you didn't have to have a formal vote. That's what I thought.
For the open,
For the open time.
Open
Yeah,
time.
I realized that for if we wanted to. But I do have a question about that. But in any event, how does a board, because the question is still outstanding. You know, nobody authorized the administrative assistant to ask the question either. So how does that work in the meantime until you guys settle out the
I think in the
policy?
meantime, when is your next meeting?
Not Monday, Monday coming up.
Then I would, this is just my opinion, I would give Adam a call and say, can you join us for 10 minutes on the phone?
Or can we take a vote and sign up for time for the next meeting?
That's another,
Because
Sure.
we would have taken
Yeah.
a vote.
Yep.
Nobody.
and I'm sorry, because until you brought it up,
it was a hangover from the old policy.
yeah, it really, I mean, we really should have thought about it when we changed the agreement with town council, new town council. Oh, wow, that doesn't quite fit, but sometimes until you're working with something, you don't realize, uh-oh, we have a snag
We
here.
really knew what it looked like or smelled like anyway. So.
Yeah, so,
And so for our administrative assistant to speak to town council, is there a vote required for that as well?
You know, staff has access on an as-needed basis. It's only when you have multiple member bodies, because without, I say this lovingly all the time, and I get in trouble, but without a vote, you don't exist. You know,
Yeah.
you have some independent standing as a member of a board, but you don't have authority as an individual without the vote backing.
but even if your staff person came back and you still had a question about what your staff person is saying based on the discussion with town council, you still have the option as a board of saying, Adam, can you call in for 10 minutes so we can talk about this?
So a staff member can ask a question without the direction of the board, just on their own.
Kind of how it's always been.
I don't.
But a board member cannot without a vote. I just want to
Because you're
clarify
not,
this.
because a board member may not speak for his board without a vote.
But a staff member can?
They're not representing the board.
They're not representing the board, they're asking a question specific to an issue that came up as a part of their employment and their responsibility. Now, my understanding was that the staff person had been given some direction to speak with council on the matter. If I'm mistaken in that, I'll need to know that, because I thought that there was direction given for Beth to come talk to council.
I would have to review minutes. I don't remember taking a vote on that.
I was at that meeting. I don't think you voted, but I think you did direct her to reach out during the office hours, if I remember correctly.
I know that she said, I have office hours tomorrow. Would you like to
Oh, so she
attend?"
was going to bring it up then, too?
I have no idea what
Yeah.
her office hours were for.
Yeah, she might have already had something else scheduled.
I don't know if it was, she graciously offered
Yeah.
for me to come, and the board agreed. So that
They
was
just didn't,
towards the
they
end of
didn't
the
vote
meeting.
on it, though.
Yeah.
Okay, all
We
right.
just didn't vote.
We'll fix the policy, but meanwhile, I think you have that as an option. And I thought you said that you were going to work on you're going to talk to council anyway next week.
Well, that,
about
On
the other subject.
on
The election
I
question.
thought that Lance had scheduled for the marijuana bylaw.
Right, so
question.
if he's already there, just let him know you need 10 minutes to just talk to the board about whatever your question was.
All right, I'll talk to Lance.
Okay?
Excellent.
Thanks, Jim.
Sure. All right. Personnel updates, training. Just by way of update, on January 23rd, so that's tomorrow, we are conducting a specialized training session for the new requirements that municipalities must follow OSHA regulations through the Office of Workplace Safety and Health. Monitoring is done through Mass Department of Labor Standards. The training is going to be performed free of charge by a local resident who is a certified trainer. This will be a general overview, and we'll be seeking training funds in the 20 budget to be able to provide the more specialized training by department that we're going to be required to undertake from this point forward. And on February 12th, as the next in a series of our quarterly trainings, we'll be holding a training session entitled Stay Centered in a Stressful World, Townsend Mindfulness, and this will be being held at our monthly department head meeting, and we anticipate that our next training will be centered around the Healthy Workplace Bill, recently enacted with a focus on bullying, mobbing, and harassment without regard for protected status.
Could I comment on that, please?
Sure.
That's a recently filed bill.
Yeah.
And I struggle about this, but as much as Jen Flanagan, I think, was one of the co-sponsors
She was.
of a previous one as well that it ended up in
Limbo. Yep.
Okay, so this apparently is a second attempt at getting something out there. What I would rather do is say that the next training will be on the bullying, mobbing, harassment subject, and not address the proposed
The bill.
because I don't want us getting into the politics around it.
I think that's a good point.
So if we could refer to that
Issue
kind of
issue divorce
situation.
from the bill. Gotcha.
Please, okay?
Perfect.
Because I didn't read it, but
But it could also
That-
change after the training.
it changed 13 times, okay? And it might end up in the closet with the other one, too, so, okay?
Excellent. Section B, Land Use Coordinator. The position of Land Use Coordinator has been advertised. Now, since the first of the year, we've had it advertised on our physical bulletin board, on our website, which is the official bulletin board, on the MMA website, and additionally on the North Central Mass Hire website through the Mass Division of Employment and Training. The ads are enclosed in your packets. As of Friday, we had received 5 applicants, and I don't know in the mail today if we've received anything additional. I did not receive anything electronically today.
So did this get reposted or posted in new places that you're starting to get applicants?
This has
or-
been posted since Michelle, who was with us for a short period of time, vacated the position.
She left a couple months ago, maybe?
I think she left the end of November with a date, last date of the first week of December, I think. So it's been a month, I believe,
Okay.
over the holiday period.
And how long do you keep that open before?
It's written, will be open until application will be considered until the position is filled.
Okay, so you've got some interest in it?
Yeah, we've seen some interest. The chairman of the planning board was in earlier tonight. Before the meeting, we were chatting a little bit across the room about, there's one candidate that I'm aware of that has some on-point experience. I've not looked deeply at the others that have come in to date. We'll likely be getting into that this week. But there's at least one that had some on-point experience, municipal and land use.
And is that a collaborative effort to interview, do the final interviews and stuff?
It has been and it hasn't been. It's been done twice since I've been here. One time it was done collaboratively, and the other time it wasn't. I don't know that there's a set standard for it. I know prior to that, Karen, who had been here for a number of years, held the position, so there hadn't been any opportunity to determine whether it was collaborative or done as a function of the policy strictly. When you look at the personnel policies, you can read that the TA position is responsible for the recommendation to the board of a candidate, but there's also a provision that says for multiple member bodies that have an employee, they make a recommendation, but that presupposes there is one multiple member body that has this position as its employee, and that's not the case, because it serves a number
Well,
of...
that's why I'm asking if it's a collaborative effort, you know?
Yeah.
That, and I'm just saying in terms of, well, it's just a nice way to do things, I think.
Well, I would look to you for direction as a board then. I can either...
I would still be expecting you to make the recommendation.
Sure.
But, how do you feel about?
I mean, you deal with confidentiality of applicants.
Well, you get, I like the collaborative piece of it to a point, but you get too many heads in the kitchen. I would look to have Jim do the initial interviews and then present the final applicant to the
Applicant or?
applicant or applicants, because there may be more than one that you would have to consult with them on, because going through interviews for my own job right now, you know, there's good and there's bad. You have either good, solid experience that needs some training in one area, or vice versa.
I mean, reality is it's a staff member,
They're working for them, though, so.
yeah, but their time is split among,
Right, and it's one of those curiosities of a small town. The position descriptions contemplate that a number of positions that support boards take policy direction from the board, but administrative or day-to-day direction from the TA. So it's definitely a balancing act. But you know, if I'm hearing from Wayne that I would do the culling down initial interview to a short list, and then perhaps have a representative from each of the impacted boards come in for that review of those, that short list of candidates, and then a consensus recommendation to the select board. Is that reasonable?
That's fine.
Okay, C, new...
Can I ask for a recess?
you sure can.
Just a short one.
Do you want to move that?
I move that we take a 5-minute recess.
Second.
Moved and seconded, we're taking a recess for 5. Hi, Dawn, how are you? Hi, welcome back. We're back in session.
Excellent. Madam Chair, Section 1, personal updates, subsection C, new treasure collector. Our new treasure collector, Ms. Anna Noyes, has officially started with us as of last week. We're all very excited to have Anna join our team. If you have an opportunity, it would be nice to have you stop by and say hello. She's hit the ground running. Barb has been in with her a couple times already, just to give some orientation on the specifics of this office. So we expect good things.
Nice.
D, setting up work sessions. So this is part of those on the warrant proper, excuse me, on the agenda proper from Sue. So the budget-related, 1, 2, 3, we've discussed. So 4, discuss revenue and expense projections. This was something that we talked about perhaps having a work session on. Actually emailing a copy of the budget documents that we inherited from the Collins Institute as a part of the Community Compact best practices, and then having a hands-on work session, laptops up on the table. Perhaps that'd be the type of a Saturday morning thing, so that you were talking about, where we just, you know, hands-on, work through the pages, work through the tabs, see how everything's interconnected, and you know, the data contained will be whatever is most recent and appropriate for the day and the hour and the minute that we sit.
Okay.
But I know last year we rolled it out for the first time, and it's markedly different than what we've been used to seeing. So I know that there were some questions about kind of the interoperability of the documents and the sheets against one another. So I think that deserves a bit of hands-on time.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. How do you feel about that, Cindy?
Fine.
So if you can put something together. I think it's good, too, that you brought up, last year. Not that I want a formal what worked, what didn't work, but I think at least an informal thinking about
Yeah,
that.
I think as a part of this section we're talking about here about setting up work sessions, I think that type of a roundtable would be important because, I mean, the mechanics of what we've got in place are likely going to be the mechanics we're going to use again this year. But the outputs we can tailor.
Exactly.
So. All right, so if folks want to just coordinate schedules on a Saturday, perhaps that makes some sense. I'll make myself available, and we'll make certain that if you don't have a laptop of your own that you care to bring, we'll have something here at the table for you.
Okay.
Do we want a date now?
Whenever you can.
What time period are we looking at?
We could do Groundhog Day. No, that's just next week.
No, I'm not here.
You're not here.
I found out today that I'll be gone the 3rd of February for something important that's taking place in Georgia.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Really?
Do you have any extra room?
No.
Oh, I'm jealous. I'm so
how'd you do
jealous.
My son called me today and said that just bought 2 tickets. If I can arrange hotel and airfare.
If.
They said the news this morning, the cheapest airfare was $1,100 on Delta.
We did better.
Oh, you booked it already.
I
That
guess
was
added
quick.
some flights.
Good for you. Isn't that nice? That's wonderful.
Go Rams. Just controversy.
Yes. Okay. Then we'll let you know, okay?
Yeah.
It won't be that weekend.
It
No, I'll
won't be
here-
that
I'll be here
weekend.
Saturday. I won't be leaving till Saturday night, so.
Oh, jeez.
I mean, I'm thinking an early meeting. How, is early
Whatever.
hard
Just-
for you?
Just give me some time periods. I don't even know what month we're talking about.
Sooner than later. I mean, it's more relevant the sooner. And it's really
All right,
fit.
pick one and let's see.
Pick a day?
I don't necessarily have plans right now.
Okay, so pick a day. 9th of what?
February.
As we get closer, if something happens and we can't do it, we can just
Yeah,
reschedule.
I may have a trip come up. I have no idea.
Okay.
9th, yes.
Sure.
So,
We're talking coffee and donut time, right?
yeah, 9 o'clock.
9th at 9?
Excuse me, what is this meeting again?
A work session of the board to just go over some budget things. So it's not a
Okay.
recording thing. It's,
Okay.
yeah, your Saturday has been spared.
Okay, thank you.
And the other one that you have listed?
Well, there are several that we're looking at. One was the comparable communities discussion, but that really is something that I think can be worked offline and then presented out to you. Doesn't deserve everybody sitting around the table comparing the data.
And the school committee one.
And the school committee is February 13th?
Yep, February 13th is the
I
school
will be
committee.
going. What time is it? 7?
7 o'clock, yes.
I think that's usually the full board.
Yep,
Typically, so you'll post and all that?
absolutely.
Okay.
And then you had also written in, Sue, a work session to discuss the financial plan for roadway projects. I do have some discussion a little bit later in my report on that, but that was another that you had thought could want a work session.
Why don't you see how we're doing
Okay.
with that? And
Excellent. So, under subsection D, now into the personnel-related, review job descriptions as they may impact budget matters. We've received 2 job description revisions being requested by an elected board. So the way the process works is they make the recommendation, the TA does a review of it against the the policy, so they'll be looking at the tool that is used to rate them, and then it comes to the select board for ultimately any approval has to go through the select board, whether it's an individually elected board or not. They all come through the select board. I'm anticipating there's likely going to be another coming in from another elected board as well.
Okay,
So I think we might be seeing 3.
okay. It's just that you want to get a jump on those because of the time it takes to go through that.
I've got the budget flagged on those lines right now, just for my own benefit, so when I'm scrolling down the list.
Do you think that there's anybody out there that is thinking of, that hasn't thought about it yet?
These are the ones that we've been talking about for the better part of 6 months, so I'm
Okay.
not anticipating there are going to be others.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, so then the comparable communities we talked about, so I'll pull the DLS data and get some of that stuff in Excel out to you guys. So if you see something that you think is another comp that's not on the list that I pulled, roll it in, see what it does to the averages, and we'll get to the point sooner than later of nailing down what we'll use as comps going forward. And you had review and discuss exempt versus non-exempt positions. The Fair Labor Standards Act section, which is dry as day-old toast, try to read through, it describes, you know, the criteria for exempt versus non-exempt. So I don't know what specifically your question, if it was a more Townsend-specific point you were looking to get to.
My question really has more to do with, have we got, looking at the current job description, if you will, you know, the current expectations of a position, have any of them changed, or are any of them changing to the extent that they would move from non-exempt to exempt? Because that would have ramifications on budget, for sure.
Sure.
You know.
One of them I can tell you right now is, it's currently as drafted and approved by a prior board, it's an hourly position. The elected board that has voted to submit the revised job description has it pegged as exempt, and they have recommended an adjustment to allow for that.
Okay, I mean, sometimes I think sometimes those things make sense, because when I look at it, I'm looking at it kind of a little like Cindy was, I think, with the longevity subject. It's a little bit easier to budget.
Sure.
If you know it's an exempt position and there's things expected of that exempt position. And you don't have to worry about trying to judge overtime.
Right. And again, exempt positions are great as long as there is an appreciation for the fact that the person's going to do everything required to get the job done, and as a result, may work a lot of hours on any given week, and then need to flex sometime on the following week. I mean,
Well, I think we need a policy on flex time, too.
I think there is reference in the personnel policies to flex time for exempt
We might
positions.
want to review that as well.
One of the community compact things that I'm going to be actually putting on my list of wishes is going to be the entirety of the personnel policies. They have an example of one community last round that did that, and it did exactly what we've been talking about, which is recognizing that it goes back to the 70s before unionization of a lot of the work groups, and how do you reconcile 90% of the employees being unionized against this policy doc?
Exactly.
So that might be one that we'll look at.
Yep. So I mentioned it just because I think it's an important piece to be considering. Not that it deserves its separate attention or anything, but don't want to lose sight of it.
Okay. Employee training needs. Didn't know if there's something specific you had in mind there as well, so
No, just what I talked about before, that, think about what kinds of training needs each department might have. I mean, if they had a wish list, maybe we can come up with some solutions to how they could do that
yeah, I think
and not spend an enormous amount of money.
I think this can roll well into the next department head meeting where we're going to be having a training, And part of that agenda can be to make clear again through the department heads back to their respective boards or even their employees beneath them.
Well, see, that was a question I meant to ask. When you were talking about the meetings that you're having, the trainings that you're having, is that just for the department heads, or is that also for their people?
If it's specified, like the one that says at the department head meeting, that would be just for the department heads. There are others that we do that have been across the organization, and we generally hold those in the Memorial Hall. This one is actually, there's going to be a practitioner coming in to do stress management, chair massage, and teaching breathing exercises and grounded
And that's that
exercises.
wellness thing.
Yeah. But we've been doing bigger ones that are across the organization.
And OSHA, where does that go? Is that just,
That's going to be open to the departments that are going to be most impacted, so you'd see.
so everybody would be there, not just the head, the department head?
Correct.
Okay.
Right, and then we're going to need to actually spend some money based on the change in the law going forward to do a deeper dive on more specific policy training by departments, primarily through highway. Fire's got the NFPA standards that they function under, so primarily for us, it's going to be the highway guys.
Okay.
All right. Longevity benefits, just keeping that alive as an issue that Cindy had brought up at the last meeting. So I'm just trying to keep it on the radar screen, not expecting.
Yeah, along with
in-depth
the others,
conversation.
I just didn't want to lose it. I think it's worth talking about.
Okay. We can have that discussion perhaps even at the
The
budget work
budget,
session.
yeah.
Okay. Project-related, pavement plan and finances. At the December meeting, I had forecasted for you my intentions to present something out that had in addition to the annual Chapter 90 allocation we get, which is roughly $450,000, also looking to carve off $250,000 additionally through free cash. So that puts us upwards of $700,000, and then begin the process, as is the case in Lunenburg, of pulling some money each year out of the increase in excise revenue we receive, till we get to the point of having another $250,000 there annually. So you'd have roughly $1 million a year without any tax impact or consideration for a debt exclusion.
So is that the maintenance plan then?
That would be, well, at first, what we're expecting when we get the document back, which I've got reference in here, at town meeting, we just authorized the update of the plan from 15. That plan will have kind of the triage and then the long term. So the expectation will be with the first probably couple years, we'll do the triage and then roll out every year thereafter, having the ability to do some repair and some maintenance. But on an
The
ongoing
timing of
basis.
this might be good because the state is also, MMA, the state are also talking about hopefully significant increases in what they'll,
Or at least allowing us to roll from year to year. One of the hang-ups with Chapter 90 has been it's kind of been structured in a way that doesn't allow you to do big project because you have to spend it down each year. So you're not allowed to pool for 3 years and then do something big.
yeah, I mean, I think I'd like to understand this particular project in as much detail as we can.
Yep, absolutely.
Speak.
I think
Get
ultimately,
that plan out, and then we can start.
yeah, I think ultimately what
When are they going to have that done, the
expecting,
update?
in my report here, I've got it referenced in here somewhere, that they're looking at springtime to have it finalized, and that's going to be,
Springtime is our town meeting. That's too late.
well, yes, but we're going to, I don't expect that your intention would be to seek a debt exclusion this spring.
I don't know. I don't know until I see that
Okay.
report. That's the whole point. You know, I mean, it's all relative.
So push them to see if we can get wrapped up faster then, I guess.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, it's going to update the 15. So what roads
I
have you
mean, we
done
should
since
know,
then?
my point is this, all right? If it's a really, really big number, I'd rather know it sooner than later, so that we
And by a
can,
really big number, you mean everything that needs to be done to get us...
to get us up to par, okay?
I can probably guess that it's a really big number.
Well, certainly.
But it's reality.
Sure.
And let's start with what reality is and work from that.
Certify high.
Well, it's really more, let's be realistic, you know? I don't want...
This could be a 15-year project, I mean, very easily.
But let's be realistic, and how does it need to be chunked out? And it is going to take us 3 years to get to par, you know, and be able to show those numbers, and show what do those numbers mean in terms of, you know, what's first, what's second, you know, in terms of
I think
prioritization.
to Wayne's point, I can get to the consultant tomorrow and try to light a fire to get it sooner than later. I think some of that, Sue, is also going to be dependent on everybody's definition. You know, what is up to par? What does it
Well,
mean?
but see, that's what I liked about the study. It was pretty objective in terms of what is considered getting you up to par versus
It is objective.
maintenance.
It is objective if you, as the reader, are objective. But I can tell you,
Yeah,
it will be
disagree.
read by people very differently. Because if my street's not on that list as one that's,
But that's the whole point of that. The whole point of it is to look at an objective study based on the condition of the road in comparison
Agreed.
to the others.
Agreed.
That's okay. That's okay. I mean, there's one thing that I don't think should be politicized, and that's which roads get done first.
amen.
Okay? That's my feeling. Not that people aren't going to try to politicize it,
Sure.
but
Well, I think, I mean, there might be some politics in those kind of conversations, but correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, on when there's a professional looking at roads and determining a plan on maintaining them. If, I'm going to use inappropriately probably, but I'm going to use my street. West Elm Street to Lunenburg Road is a heavily traveled road.
That's one of the
it's one of the
variables.
criteria.
Okay, so if I'm going to, all right, we use your street, Ash Street. If Ash Street and West Elm Street are in exactly the same condition, without politics, that I would think that West Elm should be done first, or have a higher priority
But
because
see,
it's going to
not gonna come
deteriorate
down to what you and I think.
No, I'm saying normally, I'm saying
What she's
based
saying
on
is the
traffic.
report
I'm
would
saying
say-
obvious, I'm saying your street and my street, obviously there's more cars going down West Elm Street to Lunenburg Road than are going down Ash Street.
No, you...
Well,
This will be determined
unless you're
by,
having yard sales
this
every
will be determined by
Saturday.
the consultant.
Right, yeah,
That's
but
right.
let's,
Your
I'm
point-
just
your point
using
is
those,
valid.
I'm
If-
trying to find a
Right,
too
you-
heavily
take-
traveled
take-
street. I
taking-
can't use 119 because it's a
No,
state road.
Just taking it into the abstract. I mean,
Yeah.
they look at, is it a school bus route? Is it a route
Right,
that
yeah,
emergency medical
traffic. The
transport
traffic
is going to go
studies,
towards
too.
a hospital? Those types
Yeah,
of issues.
right.
And
But
This is why
deterioration.
we're using a consultant.
Right.
Take that out of our
Right,
hands.
but I mean,
don't
but
know.
those are things that, but it's, people are gonna look at it, it's not, you know, as for citizens looking at it, oh my gosh, well, we've had the issue with Bayberry Hill, that for some reason,
But
that
you know
doesn't
what?
always get prioritized.
Those are, as far as I'm concerned, they can have all those discussions that they want to in their living rooms or in their playrooms
They
or
don't have
whatever.
them in them.
However, when it comes down to making decisions,
Let's get on.
somebody has to hold the line and say, this is the study
I
that was
just wanna see some of
done.
these roads actually done. I'm not
Exactly.
happy that this is the second time we've done this and nothing's
I'm not happy
happened on
about
the
it
first. If this
either.
doesn't, I don't wanna see, I hope that this town does not vote to do this again until something actually gets done with this one. If nothing happens with this one, don't waste the money, actually put the money that, on these studies on the road.
And that's what Ed Kukula used to say. He said it over and over and over again, and the town was never willing to put the money into it and figure out the financial plan. What I'm saying is, and I think I'm hearing you guys say, is we're going to try to figure this out and make it happen. Because our property values are going way down. You start going through some of these neighborhoods, and I don't mean little side streets. I mean main thoroughfares like
Well,
at
our
Elm.
property values aren't going down because there's potholes.
Well, that's one
There's a
reason.
lot of, there's
But to synthesize...
there's a lot of other data that
To
goes into it.
synthesize what you're all saying, though, is, yes, we get an impartial professional
And
assessment,
that's our plan.
but it then becomes incumbent upon us to articulate the value of that plan.
Exactly.
Because ultimately, somebody other than you are going to make the call on whether it gets funded. And you're 3 votes, but just 3.
All right.
Lovely.
He's getting
Wayne's got the
hungry.
whip over there.
Wayne's getting hungry, huh?
All right.
have to leave
Financial
the house
updates,
at 4 o'clock.
community compact grant, touched on that earlier. The document here lists some of the best practices. I've highlighted, you can see or made bold, develop employee policies and procedures for such things as discrimination, sexual harassment, information technology use, drug and alcohol, social media, and town-owned vehicles. That would be something I think that you've identified as a goal of the boards, that this might be an appropriate use of a compact. So take a peek at those, and I'll also, as I said earlier, send you the link to the site. Fiscal 20 budget shows up as B on page 3. With the sole exception of the water department budget to date, all departmental budgets were submitted on time and are in hand. The finance team has been working on keeping the revenue expense tool updated with each new piece of information as we receive it. We expect to hear what the governor will be presenting, not presenting, for municipal local aid this weekend, so I should know more by meeting time.
Actually,
It's
I
not
think
yet.
his budget, I think he was going to make announcements tomorrow.
Yeah, it's going to be tomorrow. It's usually on the Saturday session of the MMA, but this year he's pulled it back. And then lastly, the pavement management plan update we just spoke about, so no need to go further on that. Let's see if there was another that I missed. I don't believe so.
Okay,
I think I'm set. Thank you, Madam Chair.
thank you. I went to the MMA, saw Cindy wave to her. It was good, and I will forward my collection of stuff so you can share it. 4.3 clerk announcements.
I have none.
Okay, 4.4 board correspondence, any?
We took care of the one with Veronica.
Yes,
The one I had.
the roads thing, or, yeah, roads and planning. 4.5 approval of meeting minutes.
I move that the board approve meeting minutes from December 4th, December 13th, 2018, and December 20th, 2018.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion, changes?
I had none.
I have none. All set, Cindy?
Yep. I seconded it.
Oh, I didn't know if you had any changes or
No.
anything. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's for the whole set, Jim.
Gotcha.
4.6, review and sign payroll bills payable warrant.
I move the board sign payroll and bills payable warrant out of session.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5.2, executive session pursuant to General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to discuss strategy for contract negotiations with non-union personnel. Finalize treasurer-collector contract, discussion amendments for town